Wow, when I watched that video, I can't really tell who the winner is. I can tell who the winner is because the announcers are telling us it was Michael Phelps. But the swimmer named Cavic, who's from Serbia, looked like he almost won as well. And so it's just amazing to think that we can take 1 second and break it into 100 little parts. Just think about that 1 second and dividing it into 100 parts and being able to tell who wins a race like that. Now, in the Olympics, they have very sensitive instruments that measure that sort of thing, but I think for us to do it without technology would be almost impossible. When we count to 10 and we say 1001, 1002, 1003, every time we get to the number, that's basically 1 second. So if I say 1001, think about dividing that amount of time that it took me to say that into 100 little pieces, and that's what you get with 1/100th of a second. So imagine how Michael Phelps feels winning, and then also imagine how Cavic feels losing just by 1/100th of a second. We are going to delve into this question, what is 100th, today, and we'll be looking at this some more next week as well, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of an introduction, and then we'll be playing a game today as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at hundredths in a couple of different ways. And one of the ways I want you to look at hundredths is the hundredths grid. And you've seen these number charts probably all through elementary school. And you know that it goes 10 across and 10 down. And we also know that 10 times 10 is 100. So there are 100 squares on this. So if I was to demonstrate what 1/100th looks like on this image, 1/100th would look just like this. 1 out of 100. So 100 is the denominator because that's how many parts we have, and the 1 is how many we're talking about. Now, the other way that I like to talk about hundredths, and I think it's kind of the most obvious way, is to take a look at this. So here's a penny, and how many pennies are in a dollar? So I looked high and low for a dollar in my house and I couldn't find one. So I found this. It's a pretend dollar. But how many pennies does it take to get to a dollar? It takes 100 pennies, right? So this is also 1/100th. 1/100th. This is 1/100th. So there's a couple of different ways to look at hundredths. Now, the question is, how do we write 1/100th in a decimal? We can write it as a fraction like this. But if we write this, are we writing 1/100th in a decimal? No, we're actually writing 1/10 because this is the 10th column, and over here will be the hundredths column. So this is 1/10, so this would be an incorrect answer. So what I'm going to introduce you to today is what we call in math the placeholder 0. So the placeholder 0 is where where there's nothing in the value of the number, you put a 0. So if there are 0/10ths in 1/100th, you put a 0 there, and then you can move on to the hundredths column. So 1/100th in a decimal looks like this. Okay, so I'm going to throw a few more pennies on here, and I want you to write the fraction and the decimal. So remember, our denominator is 100 because there are 100 pennies in a dollar, so that's our denominator. And how many pennies do you see? You see 5, right? How will we write that in a decimal? It's not 5/10ths, it's 5/100ths, which is something very different. So what you're going to write is if you haven't written it already, is you're going to write 5/100ths. Place value or placeholder 0 goes there to show that there are no tenths. Let's do another one. This time I'm going to shift from money and we're going to take a look at our 100 grid. And I'm going to do this one a little bit differently with you. So on this one, I'm going to go ahead and shade in a few of these. And before you write the fraction and the decimal, what I'd like you to do, well, actually go ahead and write the fraction. Let's go ahead and write the fraction. What do we see here? How many did I shade in? I shaded in 7, and out of how many altogether? I shaded 100, so that's my denominator. Now, before we write the decimal, what I want you to do is I want you to, we're going to just make a place value column here. And what I want you to do is write a T for tenths and an H for hundredths. And let's do a decimal point here. Okay? Does everybody have that? Now this decimal point makes this tenths. And do you notice that when we have hundreds, tens, and ones on the other side of the decimal point, the tenths is smaller than the hundredths, but here tenths is bigger than the hundredths. That's always kind of interesting to watch kids learn that for the first time. So as we go to the right of the decimal, the numbers on this side get smaller and smaller. Okay, so if we were to write 7/100ths with a place value 0, what you would do is you would write 0 because there are no tenths. If I put a 1 here or a 3 here, then I would have tenths. But here I don't, so I would write just like that. And that's, when we read this, it says 7/100ths. And again, we don't want to say 0.07. We want to say 7/100ths because that's what it is. Okay, what we're going to do next is I'm going to do another thing on this paper here. And this time I'm going to shade a couple. And I'm going to shade so fast you won't even believe it. This time I'm going to show you this. So I have this, and then I will go ahead and shade in a few of these. So now, what is the fraction you see here? What's the fraction that you see? And if you know what it is, go ahead and write it down on your notebook paper. Okay, so I'll go ahead and give the answers or begin talking about it. So this orange strip is worth 10, right? This is worth 20. And then we have some extras, 21, 22, 23, 24. What is our denominator? Well, our denominator is still 100 because we are using a 100 grid. But we're representing one whole column as 1/10. So this is 1/10, 2/10. If I were to cover the rest of this grid with more of these, we would have 10 tenths make 100, right? But we're using some tenths and some hundreds. So go ahead and write what you think goes on top. So the answer is there's 24 because there's 10 plus 10 plus 4. So we have 24 hundredths. Now how would we write that in a decimal? Well, this time we don't need a placeholder 0. We have 2/10. So we're going to write 2/10 here and 4 hundredths there. And then when we say the decimal, what we have is 24 hundredths. Let's do one more. I'm going to add some more here. So you can be kind of thinking about what the tenths column is going to look like. All right, my papers are kind of crooked. Okay, so here we go. There's this many tenths. And then I'll go ahead and shade, and this time just for fun I'm going to use green. And I'm going to do this kind of all around the place. I'll do one more. Okay, so this is our new hundreds grid. Can you write a decimal for that and a fraction? And again, I'm going to be thinking about what's in my tenths column and what's in my hundredths column. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 6 tenths. So it's going to be 60 something, right? And then I'm going to go ahead and count my hundredths and get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this fraction, or this decimal, or decimal fraction, is 68 hundredths. Like I said before, we're going to spend more time on this concept, so if this is feeling a little confusing to you, don't worry about it. We will revisit this and we'll have more practice. You're going to have some practice with it today during your independent practice, and if you have questions, you might want to ask a family member who knows a little bit more about this maybe than you do at this moment. If you're on the right track, because this is one of those things, if we were learning in class together, I would check to make sure you were understanding, and it's just not really possible for me to do that all the time when I'm teaching this way. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and now move on to the game. And the name of the game is Name That Number. And I'm going to play one round with you, and then I'm going to encourage you to play this game with your family. And I'm going to write Name That Number. So when I was a kid, this represented number. It probably represents hashtag to you, but whenever I see it, I always think it says number. Okay, so the way you play Name That Number, and if you're in my math class, you may have played this before. What you're going to get is you're going to get 5 cards. And they're going to come right from the top of the deck, okay? And what you're going to do is you're going to put them in the place value you want them to be in. So, and then let's do this. Let's go ahead and set up on a piece of notebook paper. Let's go ahead and set up our game board here. So we're going to write hundreds, tens, and ones, decimal point. And then we're going to write tenths, and I'm going to put a THS there so we know that we're thinking about tenths, and then hundredths, THS. That'll just make it really clear as we're reading it what we're talking about. Okay, so then we can go ahead and make columns. And the way you play this game is you're given a card off the top, okay? And once you place it, so you got a 5 there, once you place it, you can't erase it, and that rhymes, so I'm kind of a poet today. Once you place it, you can't erase it, so you need to think about where do you want to put the 5, okay? So go ahead and put this wherever you think it belongs. The object of the game is to get the biggest number possible. So think about where the 5 should go. The digits in this deck are 0 through 9. So think about where it should go. Now let's say I put it here, okay? And the reason I thought to put it there is it's not too big and it's not too small, so it might go well in the ones place. Okay, that's just a guess of mine. Now I'm going to pull another card, and I got a 2. Now, where should I put that 2? Should I put it over here and my answer might be 205 at some point, something like that? Or should I make it over here? I think I'm going to put it here. You don't need to put it where I'm putting it. You can put it where you want, okay? But remember, once you place it, you can't erase it. Ooh, look at this number. So here's a 9. Now, that's the biggest number you can get. So where would you put that number? You'd put it right here, right? Okay, next number is 4. Where are you going to put that 4? In the tens or the tenths? What do you think? Go ahead and place it. I'm going to place mine here. And the final card, hopefully it's bigger than a 4. Uh-oh, it's a 1. So this number is 915 and 42 hundredths. Now, if I had played the 4 here, I would have gotten one of the bigger numbers possible, or if I'd put the 5 here, I could have gotten even a bigger number. So as you play this game, you'll develop some strategies and you'll develop some ideas of where you think your numbers should go. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to play you, and this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull cards for me and I'm going to pull cards for you. So I'm going to shuffle and I will show you what your cards are. Your cards will be on this side and my cards will be on this side. And you'll see how I'm doing as I play because I'll put mine down. So your first number is a 9. Not too shabby. Okay. Oh, my number's a 9 as well. So I'm going to put my 9 here. And you can put your 9 where you think it belongs. Okay, your next card is a 6. Where are you going to put that 6? My next card is a 7. So I think I'm going to put my 7 here, because that's a pretty big number. Your next card is a 5. Go ahead and place your card. And my next number is a 2. So I know where my 2's going to go, because hundredths is the smallest number on this chart. Now, another thing you can think of when you're playing this at home with family members is you can get a deck of cards and take the king and the queen and the jack out. You can also make the ace a 1. You can also extend your place value chart farther this way or even farther this way, because after hundreds comes thousands. So you could do that as well. Okay, here's your next card. It's a 12. That doesn't count, sorry. It's a 0. Okay, where are you going to put your 0? My next card is a 6. I think I will put my 6 here. Your next card is a 9. Okay, now we're talking. So that's a really good draw right there. That's your final number. Where do you think it should go? Here's my final number. Now, if I had put my 6 here, I could have put my 9 there. Or if I put my 7 somewhere else, I could have put my 9 there. You just never know. Some of this is skill, and some of this is what cards you get. So my final number is 976 and 92 hundredths. Now, I would like you to post your game that you played against me on Padlet, because I would like to see how you did with those cards. Okay, go ahead and make sure that you teach this game to someone, maybe over the weekend if you're playing games on Saturday night or something. This is a great game to play, and it's a game for all ages. So even if you have a younger sibling, they might, with your help, understand how to play. I hope you have a great weekend. Go ahead and check out the independent practice, and I'll see you next time.